Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. It's 7:09 p.m. right now. I see a quorum of the board is present in person, and we have a member online. We have member Lou Gito is online, and present in the hall is member Deborah Roberts and Vice Chair Scott Carrera and myself. I'm going to read through, because we have one member online, the rules are a little different for tonight. I'm going to read through a couple of things. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which extend the Governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until May 31st, 2025, this meeting will be conducted both in person and virtually via Google Meets. The meeting will be recorded by SMAC Cable Television and broadcast live. It may be live streamed at www.stoughtontv.org. A recording of the meeting, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceeding will be posted on the town's website and/or SMAC as soon as possible after the meeting if the live broadcast or live streaming is unsuccessful. Times are approximate and items may be taken out of order at the chair's discretion. So on the beginning, actually, let's take a quick roll call and just let me know that you're present. Lou Gito, are you able to hear us, Mr. Gito?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Ms. Roberts?
Here.
Vice Chair Carrera?
Here.
I'm here as well. One of the members, Joseph McCrisky, unless he's online, I don't believe he is. He is not going to be able to be present. He has a family member in the hospital he's visiting. But he may show up later. In the meantime, if you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I am going to take some of these out of order by a little bit. We're going to start actually with citizens' comments. I just want to know how many people are interested in speaking tonight? 6. Okay. We are, for all that are present, I'll obviously give you the opportunity to speak. We have, we're going to be cutting this meeting at a close at 9 o'clock. We had town meeting last night. We're up late, and we'll be doing the same thing tomorrow. So just to make sure that we're able to perform at our best both tonight and tomorrow. At 9 o'clock, we're looking to close this up. So I do ask that, at least for the time being, you're able to keep your comments short. Let me read something really quick related to this. This is after the Supreme Court, or the Superior Court or Supreme Court, it's the Mass Court's decision on Barron versus Southborough. Before we begin citizens' comments, I'd like to remind everyone of or state some ground rules for this agenda item, which I, as the chair, would like to just voice as preface before we begin. Citizens' comments is an opportunity for the board to hear from the public, but shouldn't be a dialogue or debate. I therefore encourage the board members and the town manager to listen to the comments made and make note of those that you want to follow up on and/or that warrant further discussion. If it's an item that needs further discussion, I'll put it on an agenda for a future meeting. If it requires follow-up, we can direct the town manager to do so. If the comment doesn't require board discussion at a future meeting or follow-up by the town manager, I would request that we simply try to say thank you and continue to the next speaker and then move on to the board's business. I'll try to give everyone all the time they need. But as we have a full agenda, as we always do, I'd like to ask speakers to limit their comments to 3 minutes. While public comments are not required to pertain to an agenda item, such comments must pertain to a matter within the public body's jurisdiction. Public comments on matters outside the public body's jurisdiction shall not be permitted. The following comments shall likewise not be permitted: threats, incitements to immediate lawless conduct, obscenities, personal attacks, defamatory statements, and sexually explicit statements. I encourage speakers to present their remarks in a respectful manner and to refrain from verbal attacks upon the character or motives of members of town boards or town staff, the citizens of this community, and or each other. Thank you. Let's proceed to the first speaker. I remind you, you have, I think I said 3 minutes. So the first speaker, the first person I saw, Ms. Walsh.
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. As you may know, due to a recent Supreme Court decision, the city of Brockton is planning to criminalize homelessness with fines, destruction of encampments, and ultimately jail. We are an abutting community to that. And what would be natural for folks is if they're made extremely unwelcome someplace, up to and including imprisonment, they may move to a nearby community. Stoughton is heavily wooded. There's plenty of open space. I'm not asking you to do what Brockton's doing. That's not the kind of town we are. But what I am asking, if you don't already, if the police department doesn't already have lists in each patrol car of options for folks they come across in an encampment or homeless or sleeping in a doorway, they may already have these resources. But a list of resources where folks can get a meal or get a bed for the night, not necessarily in Stoughton. I think our homeless shelter and our apartments for the formerly homeless are pretty much booked solid. But rather than treat them as Brockton is, where basically it is move along, make some attempt to assist. You can't help someone who doesn't want help. But if they had a list of phone numbers or charities or locations where these people could avail themselves of some assistance, I think that's a kinder way of handling folks than just putting them in jail or fining them $50 a day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to that end, I actually would ask that the town manager just, if you don't mind, looking into what our response might be in a similar situation, and what our options are. I'm sure that it probably would involve conversations with Chiefs Carroll and McNamara, just to make sure that we actually aren't caught flat-footed, that we actually have some plan, if there isn't already one in place. Thank you so much. I think there might have been also somebody online who was looking to speak. I'm going to move to them real quickly because I have a tendency of forgetting that there are people online. So I want to make sure I don't miss them. There's a name on here. It's Amina Cephas. I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
That's correct. Good evening, members of the Select Board. My name is Amina Cephas, and I'm a resident of Stoughton, living in a condo near the ongoing construction of a gas station along the Turnpike Street. I moved here just a year ago, and in that time, the construction caused significant disruption to my life. The work often starts as early as 5 a.m. With delivery trucks using beepers that can be heard from less than 500 feet away from my bedroom windows. The noise is constant, and it goes on long after allowable work hours, with little regard for residents' peace as well as well-being. As you can imagine, being woken up in the early hours of the morning is incredibly disruptive and impacts the quality of my life in ways that I shouldn't have to endure. I have reached out to the city and the police multiple times. No one has provided clear directions or communications to address the issue. To give you an idea of the impact, the backup beeper on a delivery truck is typically very loud, ranging from 100 to 112 decibels, which is similar to the noise of a chainsaw or a rock concert. These alarms are designed to be heard over a large distance, so they can be extremely disruptive, particularly at 5 a.m. when background noise is minimal. I am urging the Select Board to implement a clear and enforceable noise ordinance and not just a noise control policy that includes defined work hours and requires proper notification to residents when construction may cause excessive noise. The current lack of regulation is unacceptable and is forcing me and possibly others to consider relocating to a different town simply to escape the constant disturbances. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and I hope you will take action to protect the well-being of all residents.
Thank you very much. That's also something I'd just like to direct the town manager to looking into. We'll have we'll examine what's going on in that area, and we'll get back to you. Thank you. Next, sir, Mr. West.
I'm Marty West from 2320 Central Street. The topic is the funding of buildings. We should put at least $2 million into the Building Stabilization Fund every year. If, hypothetically, we have an article for a building project about every 5 years, we would have at least $10 million to put toward our share of the cost. That would save us the interest on $10 million of debt over a 30-year loan. If we fund the Building Stabilization Fund aggressively enough, we could have another significant benefit. We could have an article for a building project that did not have the words budget override or debt exclusion. It would pass easily. Even old people like I would vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, so we'll move to the next layers. We have Roberta. Why don't you come forward? Thank you so much. Oh, just turn the mic on. Also,
I'm here on a positive note.
you just give us your name and
Sorry,
address.
Roberta Harback, Precinct 7. So what I would like, and I know this is last minute, but I want you folks to give me permission to make a Christmas tree out of the town meeting books. The town meeting books. And I want to put this Christmas tree in the lobby. I want to have a little fun, and we'll recycle the town meeting books.
You on HGTV again?
No, I'm not on HGTV, but it's something different. We use a lot of paper to make the books. You know, it would be great if you guys could do an announcement tomorrow night. Anybody who doesn't want their book, leave it on the table, and we'll have at it. We'll see how big the tree can go. That's all I'm asking. Am I getting your blessing, or I know you really can't answer me, but this is really last minute.
Yeah, we're not able to vote on things that are not on our agenda, but
it's
what I
really
can say
not
is
a-
that if you
it's
can work
really
with...
not a vote. Is it really? Is this really a vote?
What I would ask is work with the town manager, and what happens inside this building is under his
In this
control.
building?
And I'm perfectly fine with it. I'd just like to say I'm
Okay.
perfectly fine.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so who is going to tell the people, though, tomorrow night that they can leave a book if the town manager gives me his blessing? I can't go up to each individual person and shake
Ask the
them
town
down.
moderator to...
Maybe ask for a point of personal privilege.
Yeah.
You want me to ask for a point of, okay.
So you're going to make a Christmas tree?
I'm going to make, if you're willing, if your back's up for it, you can willing to help, and if, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How are you going to take care of the other, I've got my mic on, Cynthia. Open your ears. How are you going to take care of the other problem, which is, how are you going to make a menorah out of one of them books?
Well, that's the thing, you can't. I could maybe make a Hanukkah bush instead of a Christmas tree.
Is that a real thing?
I don't know. But, and I still will do the lights at the Pocket Park the day after Thanksgiving, like
I
we've been
think you
doing.
should just go for it. And if Tom,
Yeah, why
Tom
not?
gives you his blessing and he gives you an area,
I already shook Reggie down in the clerk's office, and she had some old ones, like some different colors, so, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, why not? It's the holiday season, people, we got to have a little fun, right? All right?
What's that like? Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. I
As town manager,
mean,
wink,
just
wink.
think of how much less work the guys on the recycle truck will have to do lifting those books, right?
Keep an eye on town meeting, because the books go on the table, and then they go back in the box, and then they ask us when
Well,
we
that's
walk
the whole
out,
thing.
what do we do with these?
Well,
So-
that's the whole thing. What they get deposited, I'm not going to be able to get them all tomorrow night. So if they leave them there, I'll come back and get them the next day. All right, well, they're going to be coming here downstairs. Beautiful, I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Happy Turkey Day.
Happy Tuesday.
Sorry, we'll just keep on moving straight down the line. I think Ms. Lyons had her hand up. Okay, Mr. Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David Lurie, 18 Robinette Road. I appreciate your time. So this is going to be the same message I already carried to the school committee. Now, first of all, I'm speaking as myself. I don't represent anybody else, like on the finance committee, although I'm going to be talking a little bit about finance. So we went to the Association of Town Finance Committees, which is part of the MMA, and it was an interesting presentation done because of the town of Mansfield. They were faced with an interesting crisis where their population in the school system doubled, like within 1 or 2 years. And it created total havoc on their budget. And it created an interesting dynamic, which is, for the first time in a long time, bringing both the municipal and the schools together in what they called a tri-commission. And the tri-commission involved the chair of the select board, the vice chair, the chair of the school committee, the vice chair of the school committee, the chair and vice chair of the finance committee. And what they did was they discussed the policies that were needed in order to get through the crisis that they were faced with. So we're not faced with a crisis, obviously. We're not, but we're certainly heading into strong headwinds of very, very strenuous, how are we going to get through this? Look at all the projects we got to do. And we also have a Collins Center report coming out, which by itself is just a boilerplate document that somebody in a faraway land, nameless, faceless people, put together based on what they've seen probably out there in the state. But in order for us to adopt that, we should really have a vetting that includes the finance committee and the school committee, not just the select board by itself. I'm not saying who has to sign it or anything. These are pretty much, each town does their own thing when it comes to financial policies. But it is very important that we do come together and do that. Now, on the finance committee, I'm just communicating what I've witnessed from it, so pretty much my own opinion, is that there was a consensus that it was important that the town adopt policies. It was curious, the body was curious about what the Collins Center report would have in it. And to some extent, there was consensus also that there should be a discussion through the finance committee. The finance committee lives on 3 pillars, and it's documented, and they're all very important. Some are statutory. It's making budgets for the town meeting, transfers from interdepartment transfers, and making not actual policy, but creating policies that are vetted and recommended to your body. So that is a critical part of what we do. And so what I'm asking is that because nobody in the finance committee wanted to actually bring forward, hey, let's organize this tri-commission, they took more of like take a back seat to someone else to take the leadership spot, which is why I went to the schools and why I'm here today, is to ask for you to organize that kind of a tri-commission so we can start to do the good work.
Thank you very much. And sorry, Ms. Lyons, did you want to speak or okay, please join us.
Good evening, thank you. So I just want to follow up with that. So I'm getting very concerned. I know, Mr. Cavey, that you've promised me I was going to be happy with something coming out of this board, select board, that you control the agenda to put policy discussion on it. And I feel that the Collins report that got moved is delaying getting these policies in place here in Stoughton. So I would just like to second Mr. Laurie's suggestion based on that Mass Municipal Finance Association best practice recommendations. And I want to ask this board if you could, on your next agenda while we're going through budget season, just put the very basic fiscal policies in place that's more than just a memo or a recommendation from our town manager that gets blown away at the first windstorm. My concern is free cash, the stabilization to a previous speaker's point, I won't elaborate on that, and the debt policy. These things will go a long way. This is the policy-making board, and because we have a lack of these policies, I feel it's contributing to the chaos, the dissension, and contention that's going on here in town. And this board was elected to protect the taxpayers as a lot of other officials, and I don't see us as a town protecting the taxpayers. So if you could do that, you can take the credit. It would be a phenomenal thing for the taxpayers. And in the end, that's what we're all here to do, is to protect the taxpayers, and everyone's needs can get met if we have these basic fiscal policies in place as a directive from the select board. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I think Mr. DeFelice also wanted to speak. If you don't mind saying your name. You just have to turn the mic on, sorry. There's a button at the bottom. Thank you, sir. You got it.
Ed DeFelice, 200 Ethel Precinct 6. First of all, I wanted to say that all the previous speakers tonight, I think, had some really good information for you all to consider. But my experience in the past has been, the board says, well, we're going to look into this, so and so on. My suggestion would be that the board would, for each one of these folks that brought up some great ideas, I think you should be writing them a memo or a letter answering what you think, because it just gets sort of goes into the abyss. No one ever finds out what you folks decided. So that was just a suggestion. But the main reason why I wanted to speak was the last time I spoke here, which is, I don't know, some weeks ago, I was talking about the concern I have that we're getting into a situation where we have a town divided. And I mentioned at that time a lot of division, people on both sides of the issue, which obviously at this point in time is the school, we're being kind of nasty to each other. And as I mentioned then, like Scott, I've been a Stoughtonite like forever, as Miss Walsh also. And again, I'm going to reiterate that I have never seen, even when I was on the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board, et cetera, I've never seen this before. And it's really, really discouraging. And I don't think it's changed. That's why I guess I'm saying the same thing as I did then. But I look on Facebook and, it's like, I don't know how we end that, but I think the selectmen should take the lead. And how you do that, I don't really think I should be telling you how to do that. There's a few guys. But you got to speak out on this. I mean, you are the Board of Selectmen. You are the town fathers, so to speak. I think you have to, even if you do it individually, you guys have got to speak. We can't go on. We got a lot of other things coming up that we have to deal with. And there's going to be a lot of other things we don't even know about yet. And we can't go forward if we're not unified. It's just not going to work. And I never thought I'd see the day when we have some people, neighbors, that over this particular issue can't get along. It's not good. It's not healthy. So I would just say, I would hope that, again, I'm not telling you what to do, but I think as individuals, I think it is a responsibility of the position you all have to do something. It's not healthy. And thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir. I do want to give I know there's people who may have come in after or came up online after I asked, just anybody who hasn't spoken, is there anybody else who would like to speak, who hasn't already spoken?
For the record, Mr. DeFelice is older than I am.
Is there anybody online who would like to speak? Okay, with seeing none, we're going to move on to the next order of business. And I would like to say, just as I mentioned, we're going to be stopping at 9, a hard stop at 9, but items 7 and 8, which is 7 being to consider and discuss use of town vehicle policy, and number 8 to consider and discuss draft noise ordinance policy. We're going to be moving those from the meeting tonight, so we're going to discuss that at another time, just to lighten up the agenda a bit. So the next item will be select board comments. I'm going to start online. Mr. Cheeto, do you have any comments for tonight?
Just one brief comment. I'd like to thank Scott Carrara for bringing up the issues surrounding the power line going into Atkinson Avenue. Was something that I think was an important discussion point, and I think a good decision by the town meeting. So, thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Lou. I did it for the town.
Any other comments, Mr. Cheeto?
None.
Okay, so we'll move on to Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 comments. 1 and 2 are based on the documents that I just distributed. 1 was because of a prior board meeting, someone, I don't remember which one of our select board members, indicated that we did not have a multi-year capital improvement plan. So I looked in my archives and I passed it out again to everyone. And this is Town of Stoughton 4-year capital improvement plan, fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2027. It was issued, presented by Tom Coulter. It was presented the first, second, or third time, March 23rd. And it does list all of the departments, all of the capital plan items. Also, it gave the fiscal year that the improvement would occur, what is the useful life, and the totals, and that's from fiscal year 24 to 27, and it has dollars with it. So if this needs to be updated, I believe it's online, and Mark Tisdale continually updates it, but if we can have one of our current upcoming select board meetings, if we can revisit that, maybe we need to add things onto that list. We had good intentions of having another strategic planning session this year, but time got away from us. But I think it's very important that we do that. And the second document that I distributed, it was also in my archives, and it is the FinCom, so FinCom's guiding principles, and it was from fiscal year 21 budget year. And if we could take a look at that and revisit as some guiding principles. The first one was to reduce free cash by $300,000 per year until usage is zero. I believe we've reached that. Number 2 was no one-time revenues will be used to balance the budget except overlay transfers. Number 3 was will increase snow budget annually by $25,000 until balances reach $400,000. In fiscal year 2021, the current balance was $325,000. Number 4, we will try to fund snow budget overages from current year anticipated savings from expenditures, i.e. turnbacks. Number 5 was cuts to budget will be based on 64% school and 36% town. Any additional revenue would be added back into the same proportion. And then number 6, We will strive to fund any/all stabilization funds with funding sources, and then it has the fiscal year. In this case, it was fiscal year 2019, 2020, and if the opportunity presents itself. So back in February 1 of 2020, that was a good guiding principle that FinCom, through me, to the select board was reviewed, and it was a pretty good, these were pretty good principles at that time, but we've made some leaps and bounds since then. But if we could continue making these efforts so our citizens know we're moving forward. When items, especially fiscal items, are decided on one by one, it kind of gets lost in the aggregation, and citizens may not see or recall that we continue to strive to make improvements on the behalf of all of our citizens. So something like this, I think it's a good practice, and we review it every year. And with that, through you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask Mr. Coulter, what do you think about this? Good idea, bad idea? You've already done it. I've seen it, but I don't think the citizens have.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this memorandum from the Finance Committee dated February 1st, 2020 lists 6 very solid best practices. I'm really pleased to say that in large part we do all 6 of them every year. And as we started the budget process yesterday, we're beginning from a foundation whereby these guiding principles are incorporated into the FY26 budget. So I'm very pleased to be on the same page as the Finance Committee as we move forward and start in the hearings. I hope they'll be pleased that we took their counsel and are following their advice and counsel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Coulter, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Vice Chair Carrera, any comments?
Yeah, Tom, you're welcome. I was on the Finance Committee when we did that.
Nice
How's
job.
that?
Great job.
Just had one item to ask. The mics, that's all I had. I had one other thing, but
Okay, that's no problem. If you, as we go around, if you
No,
want
go
to
ahead.
be recognized later, feel free. Let me know. I have no comments other than just to say, last night we had a town meeting. We'll have it again tomorrow. Because of the short meeting of the select board tonight, we'll likely have another meeting next week to pick up anything that we weren't able to complete this week. Because I'd rather not wait until next week to say it, I just wanted to right now thank all of the town meeting representatives who go to the trouble of oftentimes collecting signatures, getting on a ballot. Some will caucus in later or be write-ins. For all of those members, regardless of how you become a member of town meeting, the work you're doing is invaluable to the community, and I just want to thank you personally for it. That goes for people I agree with and people I don't. I think that having all the voices of the town represented makes us stronger and better. So I just want to thank everybody who's a member of town meeting, and also to that end, thank both town staff, the town manager, an assistant town manager, finance director, as well as all of their similar compatriots in the school system for the work they do to develop the projects, develop the articles, vet them, document them, provide justification for them, and sometimes even pre-filter them and decide which ones make sense for this community, which ones don't, and which ones are likely to work with with the priorities of town meeting as they've previously demonstrated. It's a lot of work. It's a tremendous amount of work, and some of it's gathering information that can be easily found, but some of it's guesswork. You're trying to figure out what the town wants and provide them with something, a project that they want. You know, that's the goal. And it's not easy to predict that. So I just wanted to thank them as well for the work they're doing, trying to help us as a community be better, just a little bit better every day. So thank you very much. We'll move on to the last item, unless I'll just ask one more time, Mr. Carrera. Are you feel you're still good?
The only other thing I wanted to say was, I know that Tom delivered to us capital plans in a packet for like 2, 4, it was out of, I don't know if you guys got them, but I got them separate in a packet, so they're up on top of it.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Of course, thank you. So the last item on the first part of the agenda is town manager comments.
No comment this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next item. Again, this is now the ADA self-evaluation and transition plan presentation. Ms. McCarthy, always great seeing you.
Hi, I'm Pam McCarthy, the Economic Development Director, and I've been involved with this process for a little over a year, so I'm going to give you 1-minute background. So we're here tonight for the presentation of the draft ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. It will be a brief presentation. It's a lengthy plan. There may be items you want to discuss in more depth at a future meeting. There was a strong need for this plan. We basically had nothing. What we had was a 1995 compliance plan that I believe was lost in the great flood of the town hall because nobody has seen it since. In order to get certain grants, especially federal ones, we're required to have one of those plans in place, so that put us at a disadvantage with me not being able to apply for certain things. But most importantly, we needed to meet the needs of disabled residents, employees, and visitors. With the support of the town manager, I applied for and received a grant from the Community Compact to create this self-evaluation and transition plan, which basically provides us with an inventory of all the ADA issues and recommendations on how we can address them. With the grant funds, we hired the Collins Center of UMass Boston to put together this plan, and they also are working with KMA, the architectural firm that did the different building audits. There was a working group of town staff that worked on this plan with them, and we also had included the Disability Commission on this plan, and they helped us with outreach as well. The plan has been open for public comment for the last 2 weeks. You can find the link to the plan on the town website on the home page where it has town news. There's a link on there, or it's on my economic development webpage also. We were supposed to close the public comment period today, but because we're having this meeting tonight, I'm going to leave it open for the remainder of the week for anybody else that wants to provide comments, and those comments will be provided in the final report. Once the plan is finalized, the town staff, with input from the Disability Commission, will meet to discuss their recommendations and come up with an action plan of what items can be addressed pretty immediately for low to no cost, and what items are going to need some more significant funding. The good thing about having this plan in place is it lets us be eligible for major grants from the Mass Office of Disabilities for anything that we might need to address that are major. So tonight we have with us Katie Dennis from KMA LLC, that's the architectural firm that worked on this plan, Kelsey Edmond from the Collins Center, and Morgan Clark is also online from the Collins Center to answer any questions at the end. And just wanted to say, this is not the same plan that David Laurie was talking about, because he mentioned the Collins Center plan. That's separate. This is just the ADA plan that we're talking about. So I believe that, that Katie was going to try to share the screen to show the presentation. So Katie, if you want to take it away. Oh, I believe, oh, it's Kelsey. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, how does this look for everyone?
So,
I can see it.
yeah, well, I'm able to see it, or people in the audience here probably will not be able to see it. One second. Are you talking about, I know I have a copy, no, I've got a copy of it. I just want to make sure the people in the audience are able to see it. Oh, you can see it. Yeah. Give me 1 second, I just want to make sure. Oh, I think you just disconnected something. The TV went out. You're having such good luck yesterday, too.
That's the one I was watching. Nothing's disconnected. Come on, you're tech savvy.
Now we can't see.
Yeah. Well, we have the handouts.
Mr. Chairman, you have now got 2 copies of that on the screen for people who are at home.
One's in Spanish. Hey, if you get shot, I know how to use that.
Just give us 1 second. We just want to make sure everyone's able to actually view the document.
Sorry.
Okay. Gilder's now going to share the presentation.
Does that mean, want me to stop?
She just has to let you know. You can let Gilda know when you need to advance the pages, but you can begin, Katie.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Dennis, a senior associate at KMA. I also have Emmanuel Andrade here, who's our newest associate principal at KMA, who you may have seen out auditing some of the Stoughton facilities with myself and other KMA staff. And Kelsey and Morgan, I'll let you all introduce yourself and maybe start the next slide.
Sure, I'm still presenting, or sharing my screen, I should say, so I think I have control, but if not, just let me know. But good evening, everyone. I'm Kelsey Edmond. I'm with the Collins Center. We are a state organization dedicated to improving efficiency, effectiveness, governance, and accountability at all levels of government. I'm joined with my colleague Morgan Clark, who, as mentioned, will be here to answer some questions as well if they arise. The center provides consulting and technical services to towns, cities, and agencies seeking expertise and guidance on important government functions. And this map on the right here shows the number of Massachusetts cities and towns that we've worked with since the center began in 2008. And that dark blue color represents the clients that we work with more than once.
And this is KMA. We are a design and consulting firm based out of Newton, Massachusetts, that works exclusively in accessibility, both in the architectural field, designing buildings, as well as consulting to ensure the built environment is compliant with the state and federal regulations. And a little bit about why we were here. So, as Pam mentioned, under the ADA, towns are required to ensure all of their programs and services, when viewed in their entirety, are accessible. This does not necessarily mean that every building or built environment within the town is fully compliant with the 2010 ADA standards. It's instead looking at program access. So that is what we were working with the Collins Center on. And if you want to go to the next slide. So under the ADA, in order to ensure you're meeting your program access obligations, you have to take 5 administrative steps. One is to designate an employee to carry out compliance. So this is the ADA coordinator role, which you do have in Stoughton. You have to provide public notice on the ADA. You have to establish a grievance procedure, as well as conduct a self-evaluation and transition plan. So that is really the meat of why we were here today, to elaborate on this plan that we worked on with you all. Next slide. So a self-evaluation is a comprehensive review of all the programs and services and activities operated by a town, as well as the physical facilities. So the report you have now is a comprehensive list of our review of all of the built environment findings that are not currently compliant with the accessibility requirements of the ADA, as well as all of the program requirements of the ADA. And what we do is we review the built environment and we review the different programs and services you offer, and we kind of take those findings together to come up with findings and recommendations to start developing a transition plan with you so you can take action and remediate the findings. A transition plan includes a list of all of the barriers identified, the methods to remove the barriers and make facilities accessible, a schedule to complete the work, as well as the names of the officials responsible for implementing the plan. So it is a pretty comprehensive plan with the goal of ensuring that it is something that can be acted on through assigning people and schedules and that sort of thing. Next slide. So what is program access? So program access includes the reassignment of services to accessible buildings. So again, it's not necessarily making sure every building is 100% compliant. It's looking at what programs happen in these buildings and how do we ensure the programs themselves are accessible. It could include delivering services in an alternate accessible site. It can include altering existing facilities or making new facilities, or any other means of ensuring the services are readily accessible and usable by individuals with disabilities. So part of this plan also included input from the public and the Disabilities Commission to help start identifying those types of program access areas that can be worked upon. Slide. So here are all the activities that have been completed as part of this process. So the Collins Center went ahead and reviewed the policies and procedures you have in place through evaluating the existing documents you have. They held meetings and interviews with key staff, and they provided surveys to departments and the public to get feedback on the different programs and services provided in Stoughton. The Collins Center also performed a website and communication review to ensure your website is accessible and your modes of communication are also being done in a compliant manner. And while they were doing all that stuff, we were out in the field looking at all of your built environments. So looking at all your buildings, parks, playgrounds, all of those areas. And next slide. And all of our findings are included in the SCTP document that Pam mentioned is on the website. And we've summarized kind of some key findings here for you today. And Kelsey will speak to this slide.
Thanks, Katie. So to support ADA compliance at a high level, the Stoughton Select Board can focus on a few strategic areas that will help demonstrate commitment to accessibility. First, the Select Board can assist with drafting, approving, and posting the public notice and grievance procedure. This procedure would ensure that residents are aware of their rights under ADA and also understand how they can raise concerns or ask questions about accessibility issues in Stoughton. Next, it's also essential to ensure that the ADA coordinator role is appropriately designated and that there's a strong coordination between the ADA coordinator and the Disability Commission. Another thing we recommend is establishing a dedicated email address for accessibility-related matters, again, just to streamline communication. This would provide residents with an easy and direct way to report accessibility concerns, request accommodations, ask questions. So it's a small, practical step that can go a long way in fostering inclusivity. The board can also support efforts to ensure that staff receive training on ADA compliance best practices. This can be achieved either by approving budget lines for professional development or by endorsing partnerships with external ADA training providers. Regular training helps keep staff up to date on evolving standards and ensures that a consistent approach is being taken to accessibility across all town operations. We also recommend prioritizing funding for accessibility improvements. So to make ADA compliance achievable, the select board can ensure that there's adequate funding in the town's budget for accessibility related projects. So that would include both renovations for physical accessibility, but also things for assistive technology or digital accessibility upgrades. And then the last recommendation I'll mention is ensuring that staff develop a roster of American Sign Language translators or alternative format vendors so that they can be ready to go and ready to meet certain accessibility needs in a timely manner. So in summary, the select board's role is really to provide a high level of support and resources, also to set policy priorities and ensure transparency and accountability, while just supporting the town staff implementing specific ADA compliance measures on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Kelsey. And I will just add some of our findings from the built environment, also echoing what Kelsey just said. You know, the select board should really support staff to be able to start addressing some of these things. And as mentioned earlier too, there are grant opportunities that will be available to you once this plan is finalized, which it's pretty close, if not. So the first finding that we found pretty consistently throughout the town was exterior areas, including parking and accessible routes to entrances. And we recommend prioritizing buildings with highest public use when looking at the exterior areas. We recommend finding an alternative accessible meeting location for town functions until accessibility barriers at the high school auditorium are remediated. So there were a few issues at the high school auditorium. And again, the full report has an itemized list, so you can go and read through. We also recommend improving accessibility at outdoor recreation areas, such as trails, the Bradley Lessa Memorial Playground, and at least one of each type of athletic facility, the boat launch, and the golf course. So it's important to remember that accessible built environment doesn't just stop at buildings, it also does apply to exterior spaces as well. We recommend purchasing a beach wheelchair for resident use at your town beaches and advertising where that's stored and how to use it to both staff and residents. We'd recommend finding an alternative accessible location for the offices of the Historical Society and the Animal Control Office because those buildings currently are not accessible. And we also recommend including barrier removal recommendations in capital planning. So, for example, if a project is planned for town hall, ensure accessibility improvements are identified and included in the scope of work, right? So use this document as a planning tool as you're starting to plan budgets for projects. Reference it because it does include information about all of the buildings and external facilities that can be useful when starting to plan projects. And we've also seen several towns successfully use the SCTP findings to support planned capital projects. It's helpful to get not only the MOD grants once you have this SCTP work done, but it can also be helpful to get town citizen support for projects when you're saying you're doing it for accessibility reasons. Next slide. And then some strategies for success beyond the building. So as we mentioned, include accessibility in future townwide goals. You know, making sure that accessibility is thought about throughout all stages, but also in the planning stages as you're starting to come up with different plans. Make sure to include accessibility within it. Ensure staff provide reports to you on the status of the transition plan and action items going forward. So, you know, you should, as the select board, set up maybe a annual or semi-annual check-in on the status of the transition plan to ensure action is being taken. You should think about accessibility early and often, especially at the initial capital planning phases. Budget for accessibility improvements for both the built environment and programming, and also provide continuous staff and board member training opportunities. And we have a slide with some resources for all of those things. We recommend using the appendix of the report. So in the appendix, there's a lot of great resources for you all, including for your own communications with residents. So definitely take a look at it. It's a really helpful tool. We recommend establishing protocols for when third-party accessibility reviews are required. So there's some municipalities that say projects of a certain cost threshold or scope or scale require an outside accessibility review. We also recommend ensuring town architects, contractors, inspectors are reviewing for accessibility, because at the end of the day, it's everyone's responsibility. You know, we should all be checking for this, and if someone on the team is asking what about access, it's going to lead to questions and hopefully a successful project. Next slide, and here's the resources. So you have us at KMA, you can always reach out to for consulting and design services. You have the Collins Center, which is just a wealth of resources for all things municipal government. There's also the Massachusetts Office on Disability, who can provide technical resources, trainings, as well as grant funding for a lot of opportunities. The Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, you can call them with technical questions. They're very helpful. Same with the Federal Access Board, same with Fair Housing Accessibility First for housing related things. The New England ADA Center is another free resource available to you all, again, for technical resources and training. There's local independent living centers you can reach out to, as well as the Stoughton Disability Commission, who's really active and engaged, so you should tap into them as well. And I think that's our last slide. So does anyone have any questions, comments, anything you'd like to discuss?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I will go around to the select board members and see if anybody has any questions. I'll start with Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Kelsey or Katie, my number one question is regarding the Historical Society. And I know you made mention of that in your list of items. So have you assessed it yet? Do you know how much it would cost to make it ADA compliant? Or are you going to give us a list such as that with everything that you talked about?
So we did assess it, and it's in our report, and there are some significant issues, in part because it's a historic building. So we thought this could potentially be a good candidate for program access. There's other municipalities dealing with similar things that have come up with either online 3D tours of historic buildings or virtual tours, offering meetings in other locations, those types of things, until the building is fully addressed. So I think, you know, this would be a good opportunity for program access while you think about whether or not the built environment is something you want to pursue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Vice Chair Carrera, any questions? No questions? Mr. Gito, do you have any questions?
Not so much a question, but a comment.
Sure.
And I'd like to praise the work of the Collins Center for what they've done. I thought that this was perhaps one of the best presentations that we have received. It's very succinct. I thought your PowerPoint presentations were on point. There wasn't a lot of fluff in there, and I would suggest that perhaps we ask them to come back in a year and look at what we've done and where we might go from there. Just a quick assessment of our actual commitment to do the work. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gito. Yeah, Ms. Roberts.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Coulter, are you going to get the complete package of information? I do value the presentation tonight, but I was looking for a little more information.
Yes, it's all online, the entire report and all of the audits. And also, we did some outreach to let the public know they could look at it. There's also a hard copy of it. It's quite lengthy in the building department. For anybody that's not able to view it online, you can look at the copy there. If you can't get to the town hall, you can call the building department and request a copy. But all of the information is in the report. They just couldn't present it all. They just had to do a brief overview tonight.
I understand that. Where would I find that online? So I go to town.org?
Just go to the home page.
Yes.
Under Town News. There's a notice there about the ADA plan, and there's a link that brings you right to it. And it's also on my page, on the Economic Development page.
Excellent.
All
Thank
right?
you.
If you have any problem, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I do have a question, and I'll be frank, I'm not exactly expecting you to have an answer off the top of your head, but if you could sort of, help lay some breadcrumbs down so we can sort of find our way. My main question, let me start with a little bit of a statement. Growing up, I moved a lot. I lived in a lot of places, a lot of states, a lot of parts of the country. And one thing that is very, distinctive about all the places I've lived is that there was not a whole lot of historical significance to anything, right? So tearing down a building and putting up a new one meant nothing to anybody. So, but we have in New England a very different, set of standards, and there's nostalgia and aesthetics that we do take very seriously. And so we have a number of very historic buildings, and that's important to the community. But one of the things that is very challenging is to turn a historic building, maybe not all of them, but some of them were not only designed without these considerations, it seemed like they were almost designed specifically to make it difficult to get into. Like Lucius Clapp building is a good example. It's a really beautiful building, but doing much to make it accessible is going to be a tremendous lift. And so I guess my question is, like, how do we? I'll make one other statement and then I will ask the question. The other thing is that you can, there's a lot of leeway given to making sure that not everything has to be 100% compliant. And I respect that. I think that it's a requirement that is trying not to be too onerous, not too difficult to achieve. But it's also possible to allow, sort of give yourself the grace to never really solve the problem at all and let it go forever. And, if you just find programming that doesn't require a whole lot of public interaction or whatever it is, you might find a lot of reasons to just not address the ADA compliance issues. And so my question is, how do we prioritize the needs, make sure that a building like the Lucius Clapp, assuming people want to keep it, how do we prioritize that? Ought we ask people, so essentially come up with an estimate of how much it would take to make it compliant? And if people don't want it to become ADA compliant, then why do we have this building at all if the public isn't able to access it? How do we make those kinds of decisions to make sure that these buildings are accessible? If they're not accessible, to decide whether or not we really want to, go or no go on keeping it or removing it or doing something else with it. Hopefully you kind of understand. I wish I had a more articulate way of asking the question. I'm sort of dancing all around it. But I would love to just get any sort of guidance we can have to figure out how to take some of these buildings that are very difficult to modify, and either modify them or decide to do something else with them.
Sure, or I can respond to that. Yeah, so the self-evaluation transition plan document that you have is intended as a planning tool, right? So you're going to be able to look at the building and see kind of an itemized list with some rough estimated planning costs, just to get a scale of project. That being said, I hear your point too, right? Like, if you're just going to do the program access and not necessarily fix the built environment, that is one workaround. That doesn't really give, a great workaround to making it, a whole building compliant, but it is, better than nothing. Because again, program access is what the ADA is looking at. However, if you want to do the built environment fix, especially to a historic building, there are processes in place for that. Through Massachusetts, the Mass Historical Society has a pretty engaged process with the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, where they kind of discuss, what level of historic versus what level of accessibility, where can we meet in the middle. So depending on the scope of work, the type of history of the building, the project spend, on a bunch of different factors, there are processes in place, especially for historic buildings. But if you're not planning a built environment change to a building, there are also alternative, again, program access. We're seeing a lot of people, especially with historic, now using that Matterport software, where it's, you click on a room and then you can spin around the room and you can see all different areas of it. That is one potential way. Virtual tours, those sorts of things, because it is a real challenge, especially here in New England, when we have a very old and a lot of historic buildings. But that doesn't mean there's no requirements for any access. You do have to find some means of providing it. So hopefully that helped answer some of your question. But really looking at this document as a planning tool, right? So as you're going to have a full list of all of the issues identified, both policy and built environment. You have input from the public and residents with disabilities and the Disability Commission to help you prioritize which items to move first, which items to be a priority, as well as you want to include the items that you're already planning on doing, right? So if you already have a plan for a building in town, like the train depot, for example, you want to make sure to include the recommendations that were included in this report in that update. So it should be kind of a planning tool for you, really, is the goal of this document. And the last thing I'll say about it is the more work you do to address the items identified, the better it is for you. If someone were to file a complaint against the town of Stoughton, the first thing someone's going to ask for is your SCTP, and it's good you now have one, but they're also going to want to see progress. So making progress towards compliance is your best defense. And this is meant to be a shield for you, not a sword. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you very much. And just really, this is mostly for the public, just to make sure that I'm not misunderstood. Like, I don't have anything against Lucius Collab building. Actually, I think it's just a really strong example because it actually is such a beautiful building. And it's right in the middle of town. It's a really beautiful building, and it really is a good example because it's such a tremendous shame that it's not more easily accessible. But it is currently being used by the Historical Society, and I know they've made the best use of it that they can. And this isn't me asking how do we tear down the Lucius Collab building. That's not my goal. But what I would love to be able to do is to the extent possible, make sure that people are able to access buildings like that. And they can enjoy the historical significance of these buildings, and be able to do it without having to, without any sort of extraordinary means. They can just go and enjoy the building. So I appreciate your time on this. Are there any other questions before we move on? So thank you all very, very much. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the information and for examining our compliance with ADA. And I'm really looking forward to see how we improve this, and we certainly would love to be able to see you again in a year and see if we've started to start heading in the right direction.
Okay, thank you, Katie and Kelsey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll be happy to come back.
So the next item that we have on the agenda is a water abatement hearing. This is for Joanne Ganjimi. If I've mispronounced your name, I apologize. This is at 2 Hillwood Avenue. Scott, would you like to cover this?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so this is for a water abatement. I'm going to actually hand you the mic and give us some information about your case and what you're looking for. I'm sorry, would you mind just taking the microphone and bringing it a little closer? And there's a button on it. If you just press that once, then, yep, turns green, and we will be able to hear you. Thank you.
I had applied for an abatement in the year 2023 and 24 for my water bill was very excessive, and I thought it had something to do with the toilet running, and I ended up going to the water department, and they told me I needed to have the meter replaced. And I understand that the abatement didn't go through. I had missed an email that I was supposed to reply to, and that is, there is like a $9,000 lien on my property because of this. And I was hoping to get the lien removed and be able to square this all up.
Thank you very much. I also would actually see if we can hand folks from the water department one of these mics. Okay. Karen Keith, it's great seeing you as always. Would you mind filling us in on these water abatements? Our water abatement policy has it coming through you first, and so this is, if I'm not mistaken, not just a water abatement. This is somebody looking for. They've gone through the first phase of it, and they're looking to an appeal, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a quick story. She came in and applied for the abatement, and I had reached out to her saying that I need a little bit more information from you, and whether it's a receipt from a plumber or if you fixed it. It's just something letting me know that it was fixed. And I did not hear back from her, and then I emailed her again, and still no response. And then the next time that I had heard from her was just recently, a couple months ago, so a whole year went by. And that's about it.
Yeah, give me a second. I want to pull up the water abatement policy just to make sure that we understand what where the guardrails are. So the guidelines. I'm trying to find a way to summarize this quickly. I'm not sure if I'm able to do that too well, but I do know that one of the first required. So I'll start with, has the water department received any information with regard to? I know there's the requirement that a licensed plumber do an examination. That hasn't happened. I think there is a time frame on this, but I can't seem to spot it.
I think it's in the first paragraph.
First paragraph.
Yeah, it basically was just a float in the toilet, and that was repaired, and I failed to furnish proof of that, which I was unaware of. I get so many emails every day, I missed it, and matter of fact, I didn't get one today for this hearing. I had to call Karen and ask her.
So it's in the second paragraph, submission of request for abatement. Requests for abatements must be submitted in writing to the Stoughton Water and Sewer Department no later than 45 days after the issuance date of the bill in dispute. Did that occur in this case?
Yes, I received it November 26th of 23, so yes.
Okay. So in this case, you're saying the bill is excessive. or in your view, is excessive.
Yes.
It was a
and
large bill.
Yes, they're very large, and I thought it
Very
was
large bill.
because of the toilet, but I ended up having the meter replaced, and then after the meter replaced, I thought the issue was resolved. I got my amended mortgage statement, and it reflected that change, and I didn't realize there was something else I had to follow up on, and it was just proving that I had made those repairs to the house, but it ended up being the meter. Once the meter was changed, that everything fell back into place. So I thought.
Okay. So you had an issue, the water bill was high. Was there any examination as to what caused that bill, the water usage to be high?
Well, when the town came and replaced the meter, he said that should fix your problem. He said you should be all set now. And when I got my bill, I had noticed the difference, and so I figured everything was resolved.
Okay. So it sounds like you're saying that
The meter.
was at fault. Is that the water department's contention?
No, we had, I don't know if there was confusion or not, but we wanted, when she had come in, we needed to put a Neptune meter in there because you had a high bill. So that's why we had to put the new meter in, because that meter gives us more information, and that's how we knew that you had that leak going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So the meters themselves, they don't, unless there's water sort of spurting out the side of it, you couldn't really say the meter was at fault here. The water came through the meter. It read whatever came through. And then that water had to go somewhere inside your house, either down a leaky toilet or irrigation system or whatever it might be. Do you know where that water went?
I noticed a little bit of water in the floor in the cellar, but I thought it was like condensation, and that's right where the meter is. I mean, there wasn't a leak. Water wasn't coming into the bathroom floor. It was just the toilet had been running because the float was faulty. But when I had the meter replaced, that is the person who replaced it said you should be all set, that should take care of it, and I don't have any water in the basement anymore. It wasn't a tremendous amount, there was just a little water there, but I wasn't sure.
And so we don't know why the water reading was
Why
high.
it was that high. That's in the house by myself. I don't have a sprinkler system, I don't have a dishwasher, I don't use that much water all the time, but it seems to have gotten back to a reasonable amount since the meter was replaced.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask if anybody in the board has any questions. We'll start with Mr. Carrera.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, to Karen. Karen, how long has this toilet been, was it leaking?
It was leaking for a year. It started sometime in between June and September of 2022, and it went through sometime October of 23.
Miss Gangemi, that's an awful long time to have a puddle of water and not do anything about it. Don't you think that's...
It wasn't leaking from the toilet. It was just, I didn't have water in my bathroom. It was just the toilet was running.
Right.
But then in my basement, where I have like my laundry, and that's where the water meter is, I noticed it was always a little damp there, but it didn't, not that excessive, not to warrant that much. Like, I didn't have water spurting out of anything. It was, yeah.
And you're on septic down there, right?
No, actually, I'm at the end of the line on the sewage.
You're the end of the line on the sewer.
Yep.
So. That's all I have right now, Steve.
Okay. Mr. Gito?
Were bills sent out this is to the water department. Were bills sent out on a routine basis over all the time that it looks like from the information that you've sent to us that this has been going on for about 12 years? From 2012?
Do you mean payment-wise?
Yes.
So, yes, bills are sent out quarterly. We try to send them out the same time each quarter. Payment-wise, the last time a payment was made on an actual water bill was the 2012. They get liened every year.
So does the money come into the town through the tax liens? Were they paid every year?
I don't know if they've been paid, but you'd have
I
to check.
believe it came from escrow. Yes, my mortgage.
So you received to the homeowner, you've received these bills every year, and basically you've paid them through your tax liens as opposed to paying them on a routine basis. Is that correct?
It is correct.
And so when you saw this increase, you just let it go on your lien and paid it at tax time.
Yeah.
Help explain
Yes,
it,
yes,
I think.
yes, please.
I think, do you mind if I explain, because I was there when, oh, I'm sorry, help explain, because I was there when the guy came and fixed the meter. Well, she paid it's in the mortgage, so she doesn't get an itemized thing, what's the water and stuff, she just paid her mortgage every month. And I was one day when the toilet was leaking, it was just a float. It wasn't leaking, she does called it a leak, but it was just a float, it was running some. But when the man came and fixed the meter, because I was there that day, waiting for him, and he said that was the problem, and that should be, it should fix it, keep an eye out afterwards. So when the bill all of a sudden was really high, she contacted her mortgage company, which there's a few things that she pays, it's all in one. Now she's separated it, and she sees the monthly, or the quarterly rather, whatever, for the water bill now. So, well, I guess she missed the email, I don't know about, that, but I'm not good at explaining stuff, but if there's anything else, all right, thank you.
Yes, I was very surprised to find that there was a $9,000 lien. I was unaware of that, and I would like to square that away any way possible. But, yeah, as far as the abatement going through, I'm not sure what that entails.
Well, I guess I'm wondering why you let this go on for so long, and
Well, I was unaware of how much that was accumulating, and the debt, and then the penalty fees. I wasn't sure of that. My ex-husband used to take care of all of that stuff, so I just went along and paid my mortgage every month. And then when I recently went to see Karen at the town, that she kind of explained things and cleared things up for me.
thank you. Nothing more.
Did I get to everybody? Sorry, yeah, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is regarding, you made mention of the penalties, and you made mention that you agree that there was a large consumption of utilization of water. So are you looking for some relief on the penalty? So that's the reason you're here. I'm just trying to be clear.
Yes,
You
that's,
look-
yeah. The $9,000 lien is why I'd like
The
to.
$9,000
Yeah, I'd like to
lien.
try to get that resolved any way I can.
This second question is to Karen. Karen, what's the interest and penalty on this, this issue? Where would I find that?
So for the lien that ended up on her fiscal 2024 tax bill, the tax lien interest totaled $565.81. I know you're talking about the lien, but just to put this out there, I'm not sure if you guys saw this or not. The lien that was on her fiscal year 2024 real estate bill is that one for the $8,818. There's another one that's going to be on her February bill, a tax lien for $6,159.
Added to the 8?
Different fiscal year. And that interest was $394.57.
I know I don't have a speaker, but just a quick question. Why is it accruing interest when the mortgage company is paying?
That is the interest that was added to the tax lien. So it's that past due is not accruing interest anymore. That's just the interest that was on the tax lien that's part of the real estate tax now, which I don't know if it's been paid or not, but the only thing that's accruing interest now is this current fiscal year.
Which means the mortgage company is not paying.
I don't know if they've paid it. That's something the collector's office can answer. I don't know.
Is it reasonable to say it's not being paid?
Current water bills are not being paid, and they're ending up on the real estate bill. Yes.
Yes, it will be paid. I just got the bill in February, and I wanted
Yep.
it, I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make the point that, sir, you keep saying that when the meter was installed, the leak stopped. It's not the meter that caused the leak. By your own admission, there was some moisture, but it wasn't a major leak. The leak was caused by the float that got stuck, and it's just running water going right into the source system.
No, it wasn't leaking well, since I'm calling it a leak. The toilet wasn't running for that long, and we started in 2012. But when I went down there, because I recently started, to her house and in the basement not that long before, and the toilet was running, and she thought it was because the toilet was running. But it definitely wasn't. It started recently, definitely not from 2012. I didn't even know.
2022. It's
Well,
2022. Yeah, 2022.
2012 on the thing.
Yeah, that was something different.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to hammer this home, but I just want to know, do we know the cause of the leak?
Yeah, it was the I think he told me when the guy that came and fixed the meter, and I said, "Are you sure the toilet was leaking?" And she thinks it was that. And he said, "No, once this was it. Once this is done, it'll be fixed."
He thinks the leak was coming from the meter?
Yes.
Well, where was the water going?
Well, I know the basement is half cement and half dirt from on the left side right where it comes in, because they dug it out to expand the home.
We're talking about like more than 35,000 with this cubic feet of water. Like it's just like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. This is a lot of water.
Right, exactly. So if it was in the house, if it was running, it would be everywhere, because
If it was going down the drain,
earth.
then you'd never see it.
Right, but the mold, it started to get moldy down there too, because it's like earth. They dug the thing up, the ground up to put a bigger a bigger house on the house. So when you go down there, where the meter is, and when you come down the basement stairs, to the left is all dirt. You know what I mean? And it's just earth. There is no floor concrete, only on one side. You know what I mean? So it's like moldy and mildewy down there. I know there was water down there, but after that it did dry
After
up.
he changed the meter, it's no more moisture is down there like it used to be.
Can I ask a question? Sure. When was the work done on the home?
Oh, we did a renovation in like 2005.
Nothing after that? That's when you expanded in the cellar and,
We didn't change any of the plumbing. It was, the kitchen and the bathroom was right where it was. We
no,
didn't.
that's not what I mean. I mean, the footprint of the house for the foundation. You said it's dirt, but you replaced
Dug
it.
out a little bit of that area just to try to get more air that could come through the basement.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Mr. Gito.
Along with Karen, who was the other person from the water department?
The water superintendent. Keith and was it? I forget. I might be mispronouncing your name. I apologize. I don't want to do that. Anastasia. Close.
Nice meeting you too. I didn't know your name.
Yeah, the water superintendent here, Mr. Gio.
To the water superintendent. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Was the problem of water going through the meter and going into the ground or the sewer, or was it a bad reading on the meter itself? You've had a lot of experience dealing with issues like this. What is your opinion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. With the resident stating the fact of, that they replaced the flapper in the toilet, a leaky flapper can, without a resident, someone even knowing about it, can leak a half a gallon a minute. That's 740 gallons a day, which is 1 unit of water, which is 740. I got to do the math in my head, but that's a lot of cubic feet of water per day. So if that
Well, about how many cubic feet? I mean, the issue is $8,000 worth of water, and is that a reasonable amount for a leaky flapper in over a year?
Well, you also have the water usage too. They used a lot of water too.
It's in addition to their average consumption that they use. I mean, they utilize a lot of water,
It's the average.
and and on top of having a constant leak, it could absolutely produce this kind of bill.
Thank you.
So I'd love to be able to hear from the rest of the board. I guess I'll start with my concern is that I really don't feel like I have enough information to even know what the purpose of this is, purpose of the leak is, how it came to be, and the basis, at least in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but I think also our water abatement policy requires there to be some issue related to the town, something with faulty with our equipment, or something that where we are essentially at fault in some sense, that we would grant an abatement based on that. But if the water is making it through the meter and into your house, once it gets into your house, like where it goes is none of my business, right? How you use your water, or if you just want to pour it into the backyard, or if you're if there's leaky equipment that isn't needs maintenance and isn't getting it, those are things that the town, I don't believe, can indemnify people in their own homes and their own behavior. So we can't really necessarily cover the cost of the water itself is a shared cost across the entire community. This abatement will spread the cost of our cost of generating the water to all other people who are getting water, and so because we have to pay for it somehow, and so everyone else winds up paying for this as an abatement. But if the water is going into your house, then it essentially falls on you to pay for it, unless the equipment is faulty somehow. I'm not really hearing that. I know you've claimed that the equipment, there might be some issue with the equipment. The water department disputes that. So I'd like to hear what the rest of the board has to say. Mr. Carrera.
With the amount of water usage that the meter shows, if the meter was bad and it was leaking, you would have seen a lot more water down there, whether it was dripping on the ground or whatever. If there was a leak there, but when it rolls over in the tank and it doesn't make any noise unless it hisses a little and you can hear it hiss. It's that big, and when that fills up, it's just rolling over. And he's absolutely right. The superintendent's absolutely right. That water, a pinhole will fill a pail in 3 hours. You got 60 pounds of static water main pressure, and down where you are, the pressure's even better. Most people have reducers in their house because it's so bad. So that will force it through your toilet faster. So if it was a meter, you would either see it leaking out one side or leaking out the other side. You would have to see it running to generate that kind of use.
Yeah, I never understood why that's, I mean, even prior to this issue, why the bill is so high. I don't use excessive water. I'm not watering my lawn. I don't wash cars. Like I said, I don't have a dishwasher. I don't use a lot of water. It was just, yeah. It wasn't until I noticed the high bill and I went and talked to her last year and then we
But
started to try to resolve this issue.
Once it gets to your mortgage company, that's when it gets out of control.
Well, it's quite out of control, and that's kind of why I'm here, because the number's just staggering for me. They wanted to raise my mortgage $500 a month, and I can't supplement that kind of income.
The only benefit that I hear when people say that is they get to write it off because it's a tax. That's the only, but I don't.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
If I could just make one comment. I completely agree with Scott's comments. That's exactly what I was about to say. But I think every member of this board understands the financial challenge this poses for you. I think it's important, however, for you to visualize when it's coming through the meter, for that type of consumption, you would have had a massive swimming pool in your basement if it were the meter with the problem. When it goes into the toilet tank, it's unobstructed. It runs from the meter right out into the sewer system. And so the consumption is real, unless you have some indication that the meter failed. The consumption went through the meter, the water went through the meter, and it went right out the toilet into your sewer system. You know, maybe if you had a septic system, it would have overwhelmed it and overpowered it. You would have had flooding in your backyard.
And I might
But
have been aware of the...
It very efficiently went right out the toilet tank into the sewer system. And so with these new meters we have installed, and this is the reason they're being installed, is we would notice that leak that evening, that day, and we could call you. But that's why we upgraded the meters. With the old meters, we didn't have that real-time reporting mechanism.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Actually, it was an old meter. That's why he came and replaced it, and that's when he said it was a faulty meter to me, because I was there and I specifically asked him.
With all due respect, sir, you've given us no evidence.
I'm sorry.
It tells us it's a faulty meter. You've given us very clear evidence that you had a toilet that was running for up to a year. There's no evidence that you've submitted, a picture or otherwise, but the plumber's saying it was a faulty meter. What he may have meant was the meter...
The guy that installed it.
The guy from the town.
Yeah, what he means is we can now monitor it real time. If you're leaking tonight, we can tell in our SCADA system you're leaking tonight. With the old meter, you wouldn't have known until we did a reading. I think that's what he meant. You've got a new modern meter that tells us real time. Before you had an old meter that told us the reading when they went out quarterly, I believe, and did readings. So that's what the installer of the meter meant. We have no evidence, you haven't presented any evidence, that the meter is leaking. It's above ground. If for that kind of volume, you'd see it blasting out the sides, and you'd see a massive swimming pool on the dirt side of your cellar. And on the cement side of your cellar, it'd be eternally wet. I mean, the whole thing would be wet. All this happened underground through the water distribution system, out your toilet and into the sewer system.
Well, no, the meter is in the basement.
I understand it is. But you can see it. It's not buried. You can see it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, when you go down there.
For that type of volume, it would be blowing out one end or the other end at high volume because of that pressure. It's pretty clear. We all sympathize. It's pretty clear, though, it went through the meter and then up to your top floor bathroom, and then directly out to so it's a crisis. It's just, if people had responded quicker, we wouldn't be in this situation, but it's a crisis. We recognize that.
Let me, because I've been hit with big bills too, and it's painful, really, really painful, and I do sympathize. I'd like to just ask a couple questions and see if there's anything that we can do to help out here. We'll start off with the rate at which this is being charged. Is it charged at first tier, second tier, third tier, given the usage?
The majority of it was in the third tier.
Third tier. And if we separate out, I'm sorry, I'm not able to do this in my head, but if we take out these a couple of examples of extreme usage, is their average typically tier 1, or is it usually tier 3?
Her average was 5,300 cubic feet, which is into the second tier.
Second tier.
She now does not use nearly the water that she was using. You can see on the second page, the last couple bills that she had, the usage was very low. So her average is not nearly what it was.
So my first thought is, if the board chose to intervene somehow, one thing is to say that the purpose for the higher tiers is to disincentivize high usage. However, that wasn't the intention of the user in this case, and so an argument can be made that we reduce the charge to a lower tier that's maybe in line with their average. And so their average is in the first tier. My hearing's not that great. I apologize.
Not back then, no. Now it is.
Now it is. And so what seems to be their more day-to-day usage is closer to the first tier.
Yes.
Okay. Additionally, I think you've already said this, but is interest and penalties already included in this?
Yes. In those two liens, the interest and penalties are already included in them.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
In the two liens the one that she's mentioning about the $8,800, and then there's another one that's going on this February's tax bill for $6,159. The interest is already included in those two figures.
Okay. So if this is, I'm not making a motion here. This is for others to decide. But if one so choose, we could potentially credit the payment of interest and penalties towards the principal. But I'm going to leave it up to the board to decide how they want to move forward. Is there a motion?
Yes. So made. That motion will be to credit the interest and penalty.
Of how much?
I think the first one was $394 interest on the tax lien, and I didn't get the second dollar amount.
But that is the only one that hasn't been paid, isn't it?
Yes. So the tax lien with the interest of the $394 is the tax lien that will be on her February tax bill, which has not. It's going to hit the mortgage company, but it has not been paid yet. The other one, I don't know if it's a whole different department, so I don't know if it's been paid.
And how much is that?
The interest is $565.81. The whole lien, including that interest, is $8,819.84.
But pardon me if I through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The balance just above 88,1984 is $14,017.04. And then after the tax lien, the balance is $5,197. I'm assuming, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm assuming that the bill was paid through the tax lien in February of 2024, and that the only remaining portion is the lien that we're dealing with soon of $6,159.16, of which $394.57 is interest. Am I correct or incorrect?
Correct.
I am correct. So going back a year and giving money back for a bill that was paid, and that we have no indication that the water didn't just go through the toilet and into the sewer system, seems to be something that I wouldn't do.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
based on our policy and based on the way we've treated other residents in the same scenario, we have considered reducing or giving back or credit the interest and penalty only, the court. And that's what I'm willing to vote in favor of.
That would be $394.57. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The other amount, which is $8,819.84, that does include interest and penalty. And we're calling that paid because it was applied to our lien, but it wasn't paid out of pocket. And I'm also considering the interest and penalty that's built into that $8819.84. So that should still be around the same amount of $394, there and about. I feel very sympathetic with the high bill and the consumption and the unknowingness that it was going on, but we have a policy, and we're sympathetic, but we have to follow the policy. Other than that, there are other residents that would come back to us and say, well, why were we treated a little different? We're sympathetic to all situations. It's happened to a number of us. It happened to me. And so I understand the pain that you go through. Can we put her on some type of payment plan? But both of these are going through the lien, so it's no kind of payment plan we can do. Our hands are somewhat tied.
Once it gets to the mortgage company,
Right.
it's out of control.
It's nothing that we can do, really.
Yeah, I have February's, November's bill right here, and I was waiting till after this hearing. I have the bill right here. I was waiting to pay for it, but this is telling me that the minimum payment is, it says $967.66 on this bill.
Is that 900?
Yes, $967.66. It's the penalties, $409. Previous balance, $230.77, which I had missed that bill. But Karen advised me to stop making sure that I paid these out of pocket instead of letting it get into
the lien.
Come out of the lien. Yes, I had no idea that
So-
was amounting to that much money.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information, the total interest on both bills is approximately $959. That's the total interest on the bill that we presume was paid.
It was $565. So
That was the first bill.
Yeah, so there's a motion to, unfortunately, I don't know the mechanics of how you necessarily do the accounting on this. I apologize. But the motion is just to remove the penalty and interests. from these bills, from both bills. That was the motion you made?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Keith,
Is there
am I
a
correct?
second?
That's
Second by
9:59.
Vice Chair Carrera. So on that motion, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Gito?
No, I think that we don't go back on something we have a lien on that apparently is due.
Okay, so that's a no?
The other one, I don't have a problem with the new one.
Okay, so it's a no from Mr. Gito on the vote. Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Carrera?
Yes, and the total.
Sorry, just turn your mic on.
The total is 981, Deborah. That's
You said $951.
$959.81.
And I vote yes as
Chairman,
well. So, yeah, so it's 3-1, so the majority on that is to follow through on the removal of interest and penalties. And I'm sure that you're going to give our,
Scott, second that motion.
make sure you turn your mic on. I think maybe it wasn't heard. Your mic is off?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is, so it's just under $1,000. Is there any other action the board wants to take?
Mr. Chairman, on the mechanics, I'll work with the treasurer and the water department tomorrow to make sure that we close the loop on it.
Excellent. We'll keep them busy too. Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, what about knocking it down to a lower tier? I know there are no abatements that are available for this. There are real estate abatements for seniors and others, a work-off credit, but nothing for water and sewer. That's correct. But can we reduce it to a lower tier?
Yeah, so that is, we could reduce it to a lower tier. It sounds like it's being charged at tier 3. Those two bills were charged at tier 3. So if you'd like to, we can change the fee to that of a lower tier, either 2 or 1. I think that their current usage is closer to tier 1, if I heard you correctly.
Mr. Chairman, I have to leave the meeting. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chairman, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest something? Rather than vote a tier 1, tier 2, not knowing the dollar implication,
I need to see them.
could you give us 1 week to quantify what the bill would look like at tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and the interest? And so you have options, and perhaps the party would come back at a future date, and we can quantify what it is you're voting on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so
It won't be like a year, though.
A week.
I have this current bill, I mean, is that?
No.
Oh.
This is.
let's make sure your mic's on.
Sorry. This is going to be some department work they're trying to give you a bigger break to help you
I
out.
would appreciate that. I would like to
And you're
resolve
paying it at what they call tier 3 is high. So they're going to try to bring it to tier 2, which will take some money off, but we need to know the exact numbers. We can't just say, do it. So Karen will get the numbers, Tom will work with that, and what will happen is we'll continue this meeting till we get the information, and no penalties will compile while we're doing this. And then we'll bring you in, and the chairman will be able to tell you what
Yeah.
we've founded.
Yeah, so if, hopefully, if you don't already understand what's going on, I just say that I'm going to make these numbers up just to kind of make nice round numbers. If right now you're being charged like 10 cents a gallon, right? Because that's regular tier 1 usage. And I don't know what the actual charge is, but let's say, just kind of make up numbers. Tier 3 is for people who use a whole lot of water. They might be charged closer to $1 a gallon or something like that. And so because there was a really large usage, your cost per gallon or per cubic feet, it was significantly higher.
It's higher.
So so if we go to the lower tier, like how much you sort of typically were using, then times the amount of water you used, that bill should be lower. And so that's what we're trying to do is on the one hand, that water did go through your system, and you're responsible for it. But at the same time, we don't necessarily have to decide to charge you at the highest rate, right? So we're trying to look to see what our options are as far as lowering the rate at which you're charged. But that requires us to do a little bit of math and some homework. And so we're going to meet again next week. So if you'd like to, you can join us again next week, and we'll hopefully have. I should ask, is that enough time to do the work again? Sorry, I'm not trying to make your life miserable. But so within a week, we'll be able to come up with the actual numbers, and then the board can examine that and decide how we want to move forward. Does that all make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes. We're all neighbors. We all live in this town, and I just I don't want to see one of my neighbors harmed. I want to make sure that you get what you need. On the other hand, we have to the water costs the town something, and so we're trying to make sure that we find a balance between your needs and the rest of the community's needs. Yes. So hopefully that's helpful, but we want to see you taken care of as best we can.
Thank you.
So this I'll just make a motion to continue this until next week. Second.
So sorry.
Seconded by Ms. Roberts. Mr. Gito has left, so we're able to just vote together
Yes.
now. So all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
so
we can vote.
so it's a majority. So we will are unanimous for the quorum of the board. We will have this meeting again next week. It will be Tuesday, and we'll get all the raw numbers, and we'll present the options.
Wonderful. Wonderful, thank you.
If you check with Gilda, she'll tell you what time your appointment is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, of course. Okay, so the last order of business is diversity, equity, inclusion bylaw.
Can we put this off till we have Joe here and Lou both here, so that we don't have to talk about it and then talk about it again?
I will leave that up to the person who wanted to speak. Ms. Roberts, this is entirely your call. If you want to do it now, we can do it now. If you'd like to wait until both Lou and Joe are here, we will.
I would like to talk about it now, and I'll tell you why. It's because there's no guarantee that they will all be here at our next meeting, because it's so close to Thanksgiving.
I don't believe that. I wrote a lot of stuff down. I feel as though I'd feel a little better with Joe sitting there. If he doesn't like what I got to say, then he's going to be with you. If Lou likes what I got to say, maybe we'll get to some other point. I will not take part in this without a full board. I said that the last time, and I don't know what the race is. I understand, but I got a lot of concerns written here, and I want the whole board to hear it.
I believe that that the board is under the assumption that this is the final document. This is the end-all to be-all document, take it or leave it. That is not the case. The case is, I just want you, the select board, to agree in concept that the effort I'm putting into it and the idea, just the essence of the idea, is something that you would consent to do. And
I'm telling you, and I'm being upfront, I'm going to
Yes.
save you some talk. I am not going to consent to anything. I'm not going to share anything until we have a full board, which I think is diversity, equity, and fair. I don't want to rehash it and hash it and hash it. I want to sit. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And we got it last week. I didn't get mine till later. I sat and I went through this. I probably got like a 20-minute answers that got to be answered in what I've scoped out in this. And I'll tell you another thing. I think the school department should be here at the same time that we're talking about it. Because we vote on something that puts their hands in the noose. It's not fair. They should be given a chance to be here and retort and say what they want to say and tell us that some of the stuff we might be stepping over the line with because they have a different type of role down there and a different type of stuff that they have to treat sensitively. And I'm not going to be a member without other members imposing a will or making things, and there's nobody here on the other side. That I'm just asking that, Deborah.
If you'd like to, we can make it the very first order of business so that it's not overlooked or pushed to the side. But once again, your call. But we can put it as first order of business on next Tuesday if you'd like.
I would like for it to be today, but I'm willing to push it until our next select board meeting because it's important that I get Scott on board with the whole idea of doing this, and that is one of my goals. It's also a goal to understand that this is going to go through a process, and the process will be to get buy-in from all the stakeholders. This is just a concept, something in writing, because I knew my fellow board members was going to want something in writing so they can review it in detail. But when we go through the various iterations based on the input from the stakeholders, we always end up with a very good product. And that's what I'm aiming for, and that is my goal. So yes, I will most certainly wait until we have a full board. When I looked at the timeline, I don't have it with me right now, but the deadline to get, it's already on the list for annual town meeting. I know I don't have to do this. I know I could go through a citizen's petition. I don't want to do it that way. I want the board to come to consensus, and I want the school department to come to consensus, but I want to be able to say, yes, I ran it by, I discussed it with, I got the buy-in of my fellow board members, and this is what they had to say. You know, we need to tweak this area, eliminate that area. Now, what do you think, school committee? So, but before I feel that I go that second step, I wanted to run it by you, my fellow board members, so you could hear the full thing, the full idea, the full concept, and get buy-in. So that's it.
Ms. Roberts, I will move this to the front burner. It'll be the very first order of business, and I appreciate your patience, and I apologize that we weren't able to cover this tonight.
Thank you very much for saying that, Mr. Chairman, but I thought it was very important that we finalize the water hearing and we talk to our citizens, because that was a material amount of charge that was going on her bill. You know, it was important. And I don't know if you saw it. I mean, I'm sympathetic anyway, but she had tears in her eyes. I mean, she was like, how am I going to do this? I can't afford this. But something got out of control. We needed to sit, hear her, and be sympathetic and do something to help her. And we did that. So I feel quite all right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add to those comments. I want to commend the three of you for the way you handled that hearing. Mr. Ed DeFelice spoke tonight earlier about division and being a community, remembering we're all neighbors. I know this is not absolutely consistent with the policy of how things are supposed to be done, but I was really impressed by and moved by the empathy that the three of you had. Deborah's right. That poor lady was devastated, and I'm grateful to be part of this team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, we had a consent agenda also, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Number
we had,
10.
before we go, want to do consent agenda
Oh,
items?
sorry, yeah, it was-
Okay.
Yeah, it's right, there's a last page. Okay, so the consent agenda
the
has
minutes.
approval of open session minutes, meeting of November 6th, 2024.
And I had an amendment to that. It was two sentences. It was under select board comments. It was actually my comment, and we were talking about governor's council. And so I wanted to insert, what were those two sentences? If you have it written, oh my God, now I've had to put on the glasses. Thank you, Gilda. Thank you so much. It ended with select board comment section. Ms. Roberts congratulated Ms. Tamisha Civil on her successful election to Governor's Council, but I actually congratulated both candidates for their hard work, and they were both from the town of Stoughton, and we appreciated their efforts, that they made us so proud. Tamisha is a member of the SCOC, Stoughton Equal Opportunity Committee, which gave me an opportunity to know her. And those were the comments that I wanted added,
Okay,
that
so-
were omitted.
So is there a motion to approve as amended?
So made.
Made by Mr. Carrera,
Second?
seconded by Ms. Roberts. All in favor, I'm going to do roll call here. Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Carrera?
Yes.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't present at the meeting, but that passes 2-1.
Motion to adjourn?
201.
2-0-1, yeah. Motion to adjourn was made by Ms. Roberts,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Carrera. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the time now is 9:15. Thank you all very much. The meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.